Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the ongoing Indian atrocities in the Indian occupied Kashmir. This is the 75th day. 75 days have passed since the curfew was imposed there. Now there seems to be a slight relaxation as far as communication is concerned, but only for those telephones which are postpaid. So that is around almost 30% of the total cell phone connections in IOK. On the other hand, still people are suffering. There is a huge shortage of food, drinking water, medicines, and all sorts of medical facilities. As far as the foreign observers are concerned, or all those NGOs who are seeking some sort of access inside the IOK, that is still not possible. The Chief of Army Staff very categorically mentioned that Kashmiris are bravely facing the atrocities committed by the Indian occupied forces, and he also said that we will never abandon people of Kashmir. So the support of Pakistan is going to be with them, where we talk about the moral support, or we talk about the diplomatic support, or we talk about support in any other level. Pakistanis as a nation and as a government, they have always supported and they will always support. At the same time, another very important statement issued by none other than Malia Lodhi Sahiba. She said that India's hegemonic designs are a big threat for the region, and their expansion plan is creating a lot of problems for the regional countries and especially for Pakistan. As far as the Foreign Office is concerned, they have also said that India wants to change the demography of Kashmir, and the Foreign Office spokesperson Dr. Faisal also said that Pakistan efforts to highlight the Kashmir issue is what exactly is what we're doing at the moment at the top level, starting from the Prime Minister or the Foreign Minister, Mr. Shah Mahmood Qureshi, or otherwise, everybody is looking into it. We'll start the discussion, but before that, we'll show you a report prepared by our production team. We'll watch that, and after that, I'll introduce you to our panelists, and then we'll formally start our talks.
The situation in Kashmir continues to deteriorate as the curfew enters 75th consecutive day. Kashmir has been turned into world's largest jail since India revoked its special status on August 5 and imposed curfew. Indian Army has made life of Kashmiri people a living hell past 2 months. Pakistan has raised this issue at all forms across the world. Prime Minister Imran Khan, in his address at UNGA, raised his voice for people of Kashmir. The world has shown its concern over the miserable situation of Kashmiri people, but India continues to ignore them. During an interactive dialogue in UNGA, Maliha Lodhi backed the call to establish a commission of inquiry to investigate the gross human rights violations in Kashmir as the situation has gone adverse. Situation has deteriorated due to non-supply of food and medicines and non-availability of transportation facilities. She went on to say that thousands of people, particularly youths, have been arrested and shifted to different jails across India. On the other hand, India, in order to divert international attention, has increased its violations across LOC. Lately, LOC has been consistently witnessing ceasefire violations by the Indian Army in a serious breach of November 2003 truce agreement. This consistent provocation could lead to an arms race in the region.
Talking about the ceasefire violations, we all know that on almost daily basis, a few Pakistanis are being martyred by the unprovoked Indian firing and shelling on the line of control. 3 civilians were martyred just the day before, and then again, this is what we've been hearing. And when the firing takes place, it doesn't see that who is in the line, whether it could be a child, it could be an elderly person, it could be a woman, it could be anybody. This is a continuous problem for all those living all along the LOC. Now, another threat, before we introduce the guests, let me also highlight that, and that is about the water threat. That has always been there, as we all know that Indians have diverted their rivers towards their side. When you talk about building of dams or regarding their capacity or the other formalities, the Indians, they have again violated. When you talk about the threat perception, their own Prime Minister, their own Defense Minister and the Foreign Minister on numerous occasions have said that we'll stop the Pakistani water and we'll make sure that Pakistan should face the music. Now, when a neighbor is of that personality or that kind of an attitude prevails out there in that region, we should not expect peace from them. Now, this is a very clear formula that whenever you talk about the Indians or the RSS spokespeople, it's very common that they're always talking about threatening Pakistan, teaching Pakistan a lesson, attacking Pakistan, maligning Pakistan at any and every international forum. This is what the Indians have been doing. But today we'll be trying to highlight a couple of very important features and statements also. But before that, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio on my right is Dr. Asma Shakir Khwaja Saiba. She's a foreign affairs expert, and ma'am is also a writer and a columnist. Thank you very much, ma'am. And we have with us Air Vice Marshal retired Ikramullah Bhatti Saab, who's a senior defense analyst. Sir, thank you very much. And we have with us Nasir Jafri Saab, again needs no introduction, as a senior journalist. Thank you very much. But ma'am, looking at the current situation now in Kashmir, and then the statement from the Chief of Army Staff that, now this is actually said on numerous occasions by various Chiefs of Army of Pakistan when you talk about supporting the Kashmiris morally, diplomatically and otherwise. And at the same time, when you talk about the support in the given circumstances, it's been over 2 months that the curfew has been imposed. There's hardly any relaxation as far as that is concerned. But the Chief of Army Staff still remains committed and believes that we will continue to support them, and we are standing with them shoulder to shoulder, and we will never let them down. Let's elaborate on that, ma'am. Now, the commitment seems to be very perfect, and whatever we could have done on the international front or in the global arena, looking at the UNGA and the speech of the Prime Minister, that is one solid example, isn't it, ma'am?
Yes, I think this statement by Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan is pertinent and was much needed. Because if we see, as you mentioned, the aggressive posturing or positioning by Indian leadership, so it was really important that Pakistan reiterate and reaffirm its commitment for the Kashmir cause and for the freedom of Kashmiri people. And I think that with the passage of time, the pressure from international community to lift curfew in Kashmir, to improve human rights situation in Kashmir is building up on India. So out of anxiety or out of humiliation maybe, that Indian leadership is again and again giving jingoistic statements which are definitely not in favor of peace. And in this context, I think Chief of Army Staff's statement is much needed, and it reflects the sentiments of Pakistani people. Pakistani people, like I asked so many people what they want on Kashmir, and everyone said that we will never let it go to India, and we should fight for it, we should continue our support for Kashmiri. So it is exactly what people of Pakistan are thinking. And as you mentioned the water issue, and it reminds me, I mentioned it in my book as well, that Nepal is an upper riparian state. And once Nepal started building a dam on the river, so India threatened Nepal. In case of Nepal, India is low riparian state, which is the status of Pakistan in case of water. So India threatened Nepal that if you would not stop constructing that dam, we will blow it up through artillery. And they actually placed their artillery artillery there
at a striking distance.
Yeah. So this is how this neighbor, this India bullying all its neighbors. And then as per the Indus Water Treaty, no country has allowed to divert the direction of a river. No country is allowed to maintain or to construct any dam which will influence the flow of the water in the river.
Madam, what about the current status of this Indus Water Treaty?
It is functional. It is
Will
very
it
much
remain
active.
Functional, or that could become an issue at some stage as well?
Actually, Indus Water Treaty is one of those agreements between India and Pakistan which are still functional, and which are under any circumstances they were not seized, the Indus Water Treaty. So, because the guarantor is World Bank, because there is a provision in the treaty that Pakistan.
What if there is a unilateral decision taken by the Indian government to stop or to divert the waters or to build more dams? Earlier they have done that, if you remember,
They are doing it. They are doing it. They are already doing it. They have violated Indus Water Treaty whenever they want. They interpret the clauses of Indus Water Treaty as per their will and desire. So they are already practically violating IWT. But the issue is that if like few days back, I think yesterday, 2 days back, Indian minister stated in a public rally that if you want to nuke Pakistan, vote for BJP. Now they say that we will stop water for Pakistan. So somehow BJP looks aggressively possessed with this Pakistan thing, because all their domestic or foreign policy or defense policy is diverted towards maligning Pakistan or making things difficult for Pakistan. But see, water is most important commodity for survival. So if India, to me, it occurs that although that irrationality is based on pushing Pakistan to the wall, and somehow, somewhere, BJP, under any delusion or delusional approach or irrationality, they want to instigate an aggressive action in between Pakistan
That's
and
what they're
India.
selling at the moment.
And but you know, water is so important. Pakistan has clearly stated in the past as well that if there would be any disruption with the water, Pakistan would not stay quiet, and Pakistan would not bear it as well, or Pakistan would not accept it as a norm, because water is backbone of our economy. It is not only our lifeline.
Water is your lifeline,
so
absolutely.
if India would violate this Indus
Then
water
we'll have to
treaty-
look into multiple options. Now, AVM Saab, I remember once I was having a word with Air Vice Marshal Faisal Saab in the same program, and I asked him that, sir, what if India practically chokes Pakistan as far as water availability is concerned? What choices do we have? Then he said, well, we have a simple straight choice, that we'll attack their dams. We'll destroy them.
Exactly.
Now, what is that supposed to mean, sir? Because Indians, the way they are moving ahead, it is most likely that they must have had some sort of a blueprint of taking care of that water which is actually coming into Pakistan. Forget about the other violations. Forget about the dams they have built. Forget about the diversions. I mean, they have built canals in their rivers, and we're not getting what we are supposed
And
to.
they can, IWT says they cannot disturb ecological balance, and
They-
which they are doing.
They are
And
doing,
it
but
is a
that is
huge
now,
threat for
I would say
environment
that
and
is going to be
climate.
another front.
Yeah.
Sir, your take.
Well, as we just mentioned that the World Bank is the guarantor of this agreement, and Pakistan has already notified World Bank about the Indian behavior vis-a-vis the adherence to the Indus Water Treaty. And it has often been said of late that next war between India and Pakistan will be on water. And we just recounted the Indian example of threatening Nepal by use of their artillery and destroying whatever they were constructing in the shape of a dam. So we have this precedence in our region where if an upper riparian is intending to deny water to a lower riparian, the kind of reaction that can come. In this backdrop, where we have a guarantor which was not there in the case of India and Nepal, so World Bank is already on notice that they need to intervene, they need to step in, and if India continues to pursue its policy of
So the role of
denying
the World
water,
Bank was that of an arbitrator, correct, sir? In this particular case.
guarantor.
Guarantor, okay. Now, when we say that the role of the World Bank is going to be very important, I still remember, sir, there were certain financial institutions, including USA itself, which supported KKH, which supported your Mangla Dam. The moment the CPAC started, they were the ones to issue the statements against it, that, you know, this is a disputed area and the Chinese are doing something wrong. And even the Mangla Dam, since it is also in a disputed area, let's put it that way, in a disputed zone, never issued a statement, rather supported it, financed it, and now, because the Indians, they are playing a different game altogether, so
The Indus Water Treaty was the flagship project of the World Bank. They showed it to the entire world that this is what they've achieved. So I think the respect, the credibility of the World Bank would be at stake if they fail to ensure that the Indians adhere to it or continue to adhere to it. And of course, they will lose credibility the world over, and of course, the two countries would again approach the brink of war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to
Quick
say
comment
something.
then over to you, sir.
Yeah, there is a UN Water Course Commission, as well, which actually decides the fate and how to distribute river water between two states to avoid the conflicts on water. So Pakistan, I think, should immediately consult UN Watercourse Commission, because it says that the upper riparian doesn't have more right on water. The right is equal, and they define the community living around the river as community of interest. So anything with that water, any action towards that water should not harm the interests of the community living around the river. It doesn't matter in how many countries they are living. So I think it's time that Pakistan should prepare its case and immediately refer it to UN Watercourse Commission.
Jafri Saab, I'm sure you must be reading about it, you must be covering this story also, and even earlier you must have covered it. The water issue between Pakistan and India can actually lead to war. We always say that Kashmir is the nuclear flashpoint. Don't you think, sir? Water is actually going to be the nuclear flashpoint now in this case.
Faisal, this is the water issue is really something very serious, and as it has already been pointed out that it is being said that if there is a war between India and Pakistan in future, it will be on water. Important thing is that how we actually take up the issue with the World Bank, which is the guarantor. This question was raised at the Foreign Office briefing today also, and the spokesman said that since India is signatory to the Indus Water Treaty, they should not take such an extreme step, otherwise Pakistan will have several options that it can explore. I will also say that it's very easy to talk about war. It's very easy to say that we will hit their dams and we will do this and we will do that. No, I mean Pakistan, which has always been saying that it wants to live in peace. All such thing actually negate Pakistan's claims, which it has been making on this issue. We have seen in the past also when this issue of Baghliyar Dam rose up, and we saw international response and response of the World Bank. So the most important thing is that we should now try and explore ways to actually convince the concerned parties and the people who are directly concerned to the issue that what kind of threat such I would say water aggression from Indian side might pose.
Can you call this water terrorism?
Well, water terrorism is something very, I would say.
They are terrorizing the entire Pakistani nation that they'll stop our water. How
Well,
will we
let
look after
let
our
me tell you
agriculture
one thing. Let me tell
side,
you,
or for that matter,
it's
what about the
very
drinking water?
easy. It's very
Look at the rivers. I mean, you know the condition at the
Let me
moment,
tell you,
sir.
it is very easy for demagogues like Modi to make such statements.
Whenever there's a flood, they open the floodgates, and eventually we have to suffer.
But it's
Without
very,
even letting us know.
But it's very difficult to stop waters. There can be very serious repercussions and complications. And I think India,
Sir, I mean,
which
this
is
what, even in case of Kashmir, we were expecting almost the same, that there's going to be a lot of, except for a few countries, most of these countries, they believe that this is a bilateral issue. Or people, maximum, what they're doing is that they are condemning the human rights violations out there. But nobody's supporting Pakistan in the literal meaning that, well, this is a disputed case, it should be resolved according to the norms of the United Nations.
Well,
That's not happening, sir. So even if they do this, then what should be the course of action
let me
taken
tell
by
you,
Pakistan?
on Kashmir, I can. There has been a lot of progress. The world community has been listened to you quite seriously, and the issue is not like on the back burners now. It's already been there. It is being discussed internationally, and as we say that this is a nuclear flashpoint between the two countries. So certainly it should be a matter of concern and it is a matter of concern for international community. And that is why all important capitals are urging India to actually lift curfew, to restore telecommunication and internet services there. And I mean, this is
No 4G or 3G is working. Only for the postpaid telephones, and then on top, you're talking about as if the life is getting back to normalcy. I don't think so, sir. This is what India is claiming. The reality is totally different.
well. Let us be realistic on this count also, that India is a big country, is a big economy, and the countries that have been urging India to try and preserve human rights and stop violations of human rights certainly are in trade with India, and they have certainly their business interests. So that is one of the major issues, that we don't see progress that should have been there. But Pakistan has certainly its own clout, especially in the Islamic world, being the only nuclear power, and we have been able to muster support. We have been able to convince important partners like Saudi Arabia, UAE and Iran and other Islamic countries that look, this issue is getting very serious, and there should be a collective stand. And it was because of this reason that the leaders from all these countries gave full support to Pakistan. And during Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit to Iran, Iranian Supreme Leader made it very clear that their position on Kashmir is very
It has always
clear.
been like that. Iran has always supported you in this
Yes.
cause. Now, coming back to you, ma'am. Now, the general was all over, and whenever you are visiting the troops, you're especially talking to them and you're trying to understand the kind of problems they're going through and all. We do understand that this LOC violation, that's a very regular phenomenon adopted by the Indians. When you talk about the violations, you're talking about shelling on the homes, targeting humans, targeting their animals, and then at the end of the day, we hear that so many people died and this is what is happening. But unfortunately, when our forces retaliate, they can't do exactly 100% the way the Indians are doing, because there are Muslims living on the other side. But they do pinpoint the targets and then they try to destroy, and that's how we hear that so many posts have been destroyed. Now, that's an ongoing process, ma'am. Sometimes, you know, it's a little over than the average, sometimes it's a little less than when the things are normal, but that's always there. Now, looking at the situation, and then obviously whenever we hear about the Corps Commanders Conference, that this is what has been decided. Now, don't you think, ma'am, a lot is dependent on the military, but there are so many other institutions. I will not say that Foreign Office is not doing enough. I think they have realized and they're doing a lot now. But that reactive approach versus the proactive approach, don't you think this is the time that we should not be reactive once the water is stopped? We need to get proactive and start telling the world that this is what they intend to do. That pressure should be exerted on time rather than getting late. Your take, ma'am.
As you said, that during better times in 2017, I collected data that how many ceasefire violations were there on LOC. And to my surprise, there were 900 LOC violations by Indian sides.
When things were normal.
Well, when things are comparatively normal. So you can imagine that what is the exact posture of Indian Army across the LOC and what they are doing. And the second thing is that in war, it is always a strategy to raise the civilian casualty, to pressurize the concerned government. So when India is focusing or targeting civilian population of Kashmir, they are trying to put pressure on Pakistani government and military, because people would suffer and they would pressurize their own government or military to stop, or as if they are responsible for that. So India is thinking maybe in that manner. And then I would like to say that reaction is usually a miscalculation. So wise the way is to respond. Respond at the time of your own choice, from the avenue of your own choice and with the strength of your own choice. So it is very good that Pakistan, even in case of 370 revocation, Pakistan didn't have this reactive approach. We calculated our strengths, we calculated the options available, and then we are responding it accordingly. And as you said that Kashmir is the nuclear flashpoint, I would say Kashmir is the nuclear fault line of the world. And when you said that now we may fight for water, but you have to see that in most of the time Indian leadership threatened to disrupt the flow of water to Pakistan while standing in Kashmir. Modi, if you remember, Modi said once while he was in Srinagar that terrorism and blood and water cannot flow together. So India uses this water card to pressurize Pakistan to stop supporting Kashmiris and stop proactive policy towards Kashmir, so that they say if you would, I think they mean to say that if you would continue with your support for Kashmir, we will disrupt your water. So it is like a stick and it is like a blackmailing tool in their hands.
And what about the exclusive rights which you have? You always said that we have the exclusive rights
on 3 rivers.
On 3 rivers.
Yeah.
What about those, ma'am?
Yeah, but India is violating those. You need another program in which we can discuss Indus Water Treaty. But there was a clause that Pakistan needs to build dams on its side to utilize the water of those 3 rivers, which we are unable to build.
And this is the
maximum.
excuse the
India
Indians always giving.
Because
that
India
since
is
the
saying
water is being wasted.
wasted.
So now
Pakistan
the point
is not
AVM Saab comes
utilizing.
that, if it is their fault, we need to look inward as well, sir.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
Certainly, because when you look at the history of our dams getting made, we were to have another dam soon after Tarbela and Mangla, which was supposed to be Karabagh.
There was no major dam built after 1960s, I would say, sir. Correct?
So in fact, of
Almost
course,
50 years, maybe more than that. Look at the population at the moment
Yeah.
and then.
imagine if you had made this Kalabagh Dam in 70s and maybe
Bhasha.
Neelam Jhelum, Bhasha and Neelam
80s,
Jhelum and
or
all
maybe
these 80s.
one dam every decade. Let's put it this way.
Yes.
Things would have been so different.
Absolutely.
Our industry wouldn't be
from-
suffering.
From that point of view,
Your storage would have been great.
We displayed a kind of vulnerability which the Indians exploited. But nevertheless, it still doesn't give them any right to take away our share of water. And we of course continue to point this out to the World Bank and to the rest of the world, and make sure that they refrain from denying us our share of water and do not indulge into water aggression or, as you mentioned, water terrorism.
I think Pakistan should not be blackmailed on water card. If India wants to play water card, Pakistan should articulate at
And do what?
international forums.
And do what?
Pakistan should articulate on international forums that we will not accept any forgery on water distribution towards Pakistan, and if international community wants peace in the region, they should influence India not to disturb the water flow to Pakistan.
Now,
We need to have a firm stance on that.
I got your point, but Jafri Saab, now there is another way to look at the issue. It also suggests that whenever we have gone in the international, wherever the problem was, whenever we have consulted any international body for that matter, whenever we have gone to any other, for that matter, institution where the case is decided between Pakistan and India, most of the time we have lost. Correct, sir? Now, a lot of people believe that since Pakistan wasn't prepared or wasn't aware or something of that sort, that basically it was the negligence on the part of the Pakistani government or that particular institution that we have lost the case, or our case was weak, or maybe they could not present it well. If you remember, sir, Jamaat Ali Shah Saab, the commissioner, whatever deal is signed, everybody says that he, in fact, whatever damage he could have done to Pakistan, he made sure that it should be done at the optimum level. First of all, sir, your take on that and why it happened. I mean, what's the rationale that man had to sign those documents, which were totally against our requirements, sir?
Faisal, problem with us in the past has been that we were unable to lobby our point of view, our position very effectively in the past. This is one of the major reasons. And on most of the occasions in the past, our teams went to different international forums, went to the World Bank, and they did not go fully prepared. So these were the two major problems that we saw in the past. But I mean, the way our Foreign Office actually worked on this Kashmir issue, and the way the world listened to our point of view, I think we must give credit to our Foreign Office that they did good job this time. So my feeling is that if they go prepared this time to any international fora or the World Bank, I mean preempting any water aggression from India, they should go there fully prepared. And the team currently working at the Foreign Office, I think this is a good team. There is a good kind of a harmony and good team spirit, and they are all, it seems they are doing
Javri
well.
sir, my point again, let me rephrase my question. The point is that when the Indians were building dams and the kind of designs they got approved, and on top of that, they actually constructed and violated all the conditions, A. Secondly, diversion of the rivers, we have witnessed that. Making canals in those rivers and basically stealing Pakistani water, let me put it this way, hasn't resulted in much against India, sir. I haven't heard any strong head of the international institutions like
This
World
is-
Bank
this-
or IMF or, for example, other regulatory bodies to issue a statement.
This is what
Is
I'm-
it just because our case was weak or our approach to present the case was
Our
weak?
approach
Our
to-
case was not weak. Our approach to present
fault
the
is it?
case
Ours
was
then?
not weak. Actually, this is what I told you, that our lobbying has been quite weak in the past, especially during past 2 decades.
Even if it's a legitimate case, which should be in your favor, still you need to do lobbying.
You
Yes.
still need to do lobbying. This is the time you hire services. There are, very
Marketing
professional
companies, there are professional
lobbying
people.
firms.
Yes, this is exactly what Indians are doing, and most of these lobbying firms, interestingly now, somebody was
Yeah.
telling me, that are owned and operated by the Indians also now, sir.
Yes.
So that is why now Pakistan,
And people from all
Pakistani-
walks of
this
life
is-
are there.
This was one of the issues that was raised at the Foreign Office today during the briefing, weekly press briefing. Pakistan has also hired services of a firm, and now Pakistan has realized that this is how they can effectively present and put forth their point of view and opinion on important international issues. While this Bagaliar Dam case was being heard by the World Bank, the team that we had there did not represent Pakistan well, because the lobbying, as I said, was not very effective. And number two, Faisal, one thing that we should not forget, I keep repeating it all the time, that India, as compared to Pakistan, is a big country, big economy, and they have very strong clout. So we have to actually work to put in place a mechanism or kind of a clout to be heard internationally by important players and international forums. And this is possible only if you have good lobbying, if you hire good and professional firms to actually present and put forth your point of view in a very effective manner. So this is one of the main reasons Pakistan has been facing problems since 1990s, because we did not have good lobbying. We failed to lobby effectively, whether it is Capitol Hill or whether it is World Bank, IMF, or any other international fora or any other important capital. So the need is to basically have a good mechanism in place which can ensure that your interests are properly looked into and you have hired services of a good lobbying firm.
Even like truth needs audibility and
Yes,
visibility.
yes.
That's where we always
And
lacked.
those lobbying firms, they establish the credibility of the
I think after a very long time, the Prime Minister spoke so well for 51 minutes
Yeah.
on the floor of the UNGA that everybody listened to him. They
Yeah.
clapped, and it never seemed that that 51-minute speech, which was an extempo one, seemed dragged at any stage.
Well,
He was
well,
so to
that
the point.
speech,
His 4 points agenda, I would
was
say,
really
starting from the climate change to the money laundering issue. Then you talk about
Islamophobia.
the Islamophobia, and then bringing in Kashmir. Now, ma'am, another area. Now, since one important issue, that is about the Indian design, the hegemonic design, basically to control the region. And as somebody very wise said, that whosoever controls the Indian Ocean controls the world. I think this is stuck in Modi's mind. And with the support of the Americans, I mean, the kind of drones they've been given to look after the Indian Ocean, 200 of them, sir. The naval equipment on top, you have this intelligence sharing, you have this base sharing concept as well, and then on top, transfer of technology, domestic manufacturing of the American products inside India. I mean, these are not average developments. I think this is going to change the dynamics of the region. Now, Malay Lodi says that this is what it is going to do, or this is what is going to happen. I would say this is not what is going to happen. This has started already, and this is happening as we speak. I still remember, sir, one of the Indian submarine recently, after this 27th Feb incident, was inside the Pakistani territory. There was some technical problem or a malfunction. It was like a sitting duck. We could have shot it. We did not. You know, this is a gesture. We could have. Do you think Indians would have done it? They shot down our Orient, if you remember, sir.
Atlantic.
In which they were Atlantic, weren't Orient. But they were cadets and they were officers. What happened? Nobody remembers that. So what I'm saying is that, sir, don't you think they're taking leverage with each passing day, and you know they're trying to check out basically the level of retaliation, A, and secondly, whenever we talk, this is our threshold. Do you think, sir, this is the time, you know, once they claimed that they attacked the mountains, there was this immediate response from the Pakistan Air Force right away, and this is what they were not expecting, because earlier this has never happened. Now Pakistan has also started showing them that, hold on, you know, if you'll do this, then get ready for this, sir.
Well, you see, after Pulwama, the Balakot attack was the first time after the 71 war that they had actually violated the international border with Pakistan. And this was something that would not have been allowed, could not have been allowed to go unchecked, unnoticed, and unpunished. And Pakistan, of course, was constrained because of one fortunate fact that no casualty or loss of property had occurred. And as per the principle of just war, we could have only come up with a proportionate response. And with that premise, if we let go that submarine, which was a sitting duck, that was again a situation which could have, while we would have had a victory under our belt, but then it would have aggravated the situation to an extent that that could lead to eventually a war. And similarly, when Pakistan Air Force retaliated on the next day, on 27th of February, it was in a position to do a lot more than what it
They
did.
could have shot 6 more jets, sir.
And it just
And they were all locked.
held short just with 2 aircraft. And again, the primary premise was that a message had to be sent, which was sent. Sufficient, nice and proper. And anything beyond that.
Communication of credible deterrence. Was
Yes.
the aim.
I mean, you had to demonstrate your, not only your ability, your will also to
Yes,
use it.
yes.
And both had been amply demonstrated. So that is where it stopped. And it was a very clear indication to the rest of the world as well that we are not warmongering or something. We just wanted to remind India, point it out to them that they cannot get away with such a initiative or a misadventure against Pakistan. And
Do you think, sir, when the message was sent, now it's been well received also?
Yes.
I guess yes, because you see, if you recall, the immediate response from Modi was that if he had Rafales, we would have had a different result. I mean, two things came out of this. Firstly, of course, he wanted to defend the Rafale deal because
Yes,
he was directly
primarily,
involved. And secondly,
And put a cover on the corruption.
And then there was immediate de-escalation of tensions on the
yes,
border.
and secondly, I mean, he clearly indicated a lack of confidence in his own air force.
Their north western commander was also removed.
Yeah.
So I think our message went home.
So, can I now answer
Quick
the
comment.
hegemonic? No, no. The question you asked. Indian hegemonic designs. India is the only South Asian state which is expanding since 1947. No other state in South Asia is expanding. India occupied different small regions which were neighboring India, and this is how they are expanding. But yesterday I was reading a report, the Hunger Index, and Hunger Index say that India is the most hungry nation of South Asia, much lower than Pakistan, Bangladesh and Bhutan. So it is the hungriest nation. And then if we see that what the recent Bengali American won the Nobel Prize for Economy, and he, in his press conference, he's a critique of Modi government's economic policies, and he's categorically said that Indian economy is on a tailspin. And if we see all other index such as Manmohan Singh's speech, and there is another index of unemployment, and India is suffering the highest ratio of unemployment in recent history. India is among the top 3 countries in the world which has highest class gap. 10% Indians possess 83% of wealth of India. So rest, like
There's a lot of discrimination. Yes, you're right.
70% wealth is distributed among 90% Indians. So this is how India is doing. I'm not suggesting anything, but we can, as a like a student of security studies, I can see that there should be a compatibility between your hegemonic or defense designs and your economic muscles, and that compatibility is becoming
That's
contradictory.
what everybody has been saying for such a long time. I mean, if nuclear weapons were the actual answer, I think the USSR would have
But
been
you
a
know,
superpower.
we cannot do anything
this
with
time.
the obsession.
Things
Modi's obsession
do
or
change with the
BJP's,
time. I
yeah.
mean, we never heard of this 5th generation warfare or about this non-kinetic engagement and all, or the economic warfare. I mean, that
Or
is
the
also a part
hybrid
of it.
one.
This is exactly what is happening to Pakistan at the moment, but we always prepared for a different ball game altogether. But things have changed. Sir, last closing comments from you, Jafri Saab.
Well, I believe that no matter you purchase Rafale or even the latest fighter jets or the guns or tanks, it's one thing is very clear, that there's always man behind the machine who fights and not the machine. So unless you have kind of a conviction to fight against your enemy, you can't win. So being Muslims, we certainly have certain belief that if you die while fighting, you will have
You're a shaheed.
yes, you are a shaheed, and otherwise you are a ghazi. So that is one of the very major factors that actually determine.
Now the unfortunate part, Jafri Saab, is that even the same voices coming from the Congress, I mean, those poor characters are also blamed that they're speaking the Pakistani language. This is what Modi Saab was saying the other day. The point is that I think a lot is happening, a lot will happen, but I think time for Pakistan to wake up. I think it's something has,
Well, you know,
something really
you
good has
can't
happened to
say that.
Pakistan.
You can't.
The Indians have actually, gotten us together.
You
and
actually- well,
we are back as a nation and we're good to go.
You can't say that Pakistan is or remains oblivion to these developments. There are certainly resource constraints that we have, but we have been trying. Actually, every government tried its best to equip their armed
Jafri
forces
Saab,
with the
last
latest.
30-second comment before I wrap up. Last 15-second rather. When the president of China, Mr. Xi Jinping, says that attack on Pakistan would be considered an attack on China. How do you see that statement, sir?
There is a very important statement that
Was that a
shows
message
how
given to the Indians?
mature and deep-rooted relationship you have with
All right,
China.
sir. All right. Dr. Sir, thank you very much, sir. It was a pleasure, ma'am. Thank you so much. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you, inshallah, later. Till then, take good care of yourself. God bless.